So when I was a prosecutor years ago, young attorney, one of the reasons I loved that job was the camaraderie and what it was like, the atmosphere inside the office. I worked in Bergen County, New Jersey. It wasn't a huge office. We had like 50 assistant prosecutors and then, you know, the head prosecutor. And we all got along, and we all kind of pulled for each other. And the senior prosecutors would help us, the younger guys and gals. And we would learn how to try a case, and we would pull for each other. And then when the day was over, we'd go out together. We'd have birthday parties, play softball, football, everything. It was like it was kind of like being on a team. Well, let me tell you what's happening right now out in Los Angeles. That's not the situation inside the DA's office. There's a new elected district attorney. His name is George Gascon. I think we have a picture of him. We can put him up. There he is. Looks like a nice enough guy, right? You see the picture. He got elected as the new DA. Ran on an interesting platform as being sort of a reform guy, justice reform, very liberal, very progressive. But he is now being sued by one of his deputy DAs, John Hatami. We've got a picture of him as well. This guy is a great trial attorney. I mean, he's one of those what I call career prosecutors, right? He's been there for a long time. And, you know, we need career prosecutors because you can't just have young guys like me come in the office and try the big cases because we're gonna lose because you need people that know what they're doing. And, you know, you don't make a lot of money as a prosecutor. You do it because it's what you believe in, especially the career prosecutors, because they can make a ton of money going into private practice, but they don't. And now something is going on here. So there's a lawsuit by the deputy against the DA. We reached out to the DA's office and got this statement. I'm going to give it to you out front that because there's pending litigation and this is a personnel matter, our office declines to comment, says Assistant Chief Greg Risling on behalf of, I guess, George Gascon and the DA's office. So let's find out more. Joining us tonight from Los Angeles is the attorney who represents that deputy district attorney, John Hatami. It's Brian Claypool, who's been on the show before many times. Brian, great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again, Vinny. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, did you ever work as a prosecutor, by the way?
I did not.
Okay, so you don't know about this atmosphere that I think is in most DA's offices and prosecutors' office. So what is this lawsuit about?
Yeah, talk about a lack of camaraderie. I mean, prosecutors now in LA County, it's almost like their boss is collaborating with the enemy. So like you said, George Gascon wrote on he campaigned on, we're going to remove some of these what's called enhancements and special circumstances. But what he told the voters, Vinny, was that it was going to be on lesser crimes like misdemeanors or low-degree felonies. Nobody knew that Gascon was going to come in and try to remove special circumstances such as a gang affiliation or using a gun, or, for example, cases I'm involved in, what's called intentional torture and murder of a child, right? So he gets elected. He starts attacking right away publicly my client, John Hatami. Let's talk about him real quick. Your viewers might have seen him on a Netflix documentary, The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. It's one of the most popular documentaries on Netflix. John Hatami took down one of the most notorious child murderers in history of our country, a guy named Asaro Aguirre, who tortured and murdered this little boy, Gabriel Fernandez. But Vinny, guess what Gascon did right after he was elected? He went on a local TV station. He starts attacking John. He said that John only sought the death penalty in the Gabriel Fernandez case because, quote, he had an ego, that he was going after Asaro Aguirre for his own personal vindication, which was a flat out lie. He also lied in the public and said that John made a plea offer to this guy Aguirre for life in prison without parole. And that was another flat out lie. John never made a plea offer. And so that was the start of it. And then another thing that Gascon's office did, Vinny, is they shockingly said on another local TV show out here that John is becoming delusional and that he might not be fit to practice law And you having been a prosecutor, not only is that clearly defamatory for John, but doesn't that, Vinny, open up potential prosecutorial misconduct for the other 70 files that John's currently working on? So this is unprecedented. It's shocking.
Yeah, if in fact you're calling one of your deputy DAs delusional, that's
Right.
that's problematic. And you know criminal defendants are always looking for the next appeal. What is the next issue that I can bring up? The one you mentioned before, I want to show everyone what exactly you're talking about in terms of that first statement, because we have it on November 18th. 2020, Gascon said in an interview on Spectrum News 1 that the only reason claimant sought the death penalty in the case of People versus Aguirre, the Gabriel Fernandez case, was because claimant's ego had been hurt by Aguirre, that Aguirre had rubbed claimant the wrong way, that Aguirre was not the heavy in the case, and that Aguirre had refused claimant's plea deal, and claimant sought the death penalty against him in retaliation. Here are some of what Gascon said during the November 18th interview with Spectrum News 1.
Purely on a practical sense, this made no sense other than it robbed the DA the wrong way, and they said, okay, you don't want to take a deal, so I'm going to go after you with a death penalty. That's a high premium to pay to sort of soothe somebody's ego.
And that complaint goes on to say that these comments directed to damage claimant's reputation and attack his fitness to carry out his duties were knowingly false and defamatory. They amount to libel per se. So this is a defamation case, right? I mean, this isn't, he hasn't been fired, but it's a defamation case. Is he still getting cases? Because ultimately, he's one of the most experienced prosecutors they have out there, right? So is he still able to do his job and prosecute cases, or has there been any interference in his caseload?
Well, good question. He's still working his cases, but Vinny, it's not just John Hatami. Most of the deputy DAs within LA County District Attorney's Office are demoralized. They're being ordered. They're being given what's called directives to go into court and try to unilaterally remove these special circumstances, and it's going against the moral fiber of a lot of these deputies. So that's a real problem. But here's another quick point, and you raised it on that statement that Gascon made. He has never met for 1 second John Hatami, Vinny. Isn't that shocking? He's never met him. They've never sat down and had coffee. And I'll bet you $1 million Gascon had never reviewed the Gabriel Fernandez file before making those inflammatory comments about John Hatami. So that's how morally irresponsible he is to be making those statements without any factual basis at all about the case. And just so your viewers know, Aguirre, he was the heavy in this case. He tortured this little boy, Gabriel Fernandez. He locked him in a cabinet for days at a time, starved him. He fed him dirty kitty litter. I mean, it was that bad. It can't get any worse than that. And here's another thing that Gascon did. He didn't call John by his name. But after we did a press conference, Gascon then says, oh, some of these rogue DAs are either going to listen to my rules or they're going to become what's called, quote, internal terrorists. So we're also suing Gascon now in the county of LA for racial discrimination because John Hatami is part Muslim. His father has Iranian descent, and Gascon is very well aware of that. So we're going to take him down for these racially motivated comments as well, Vinny. I mean, this is a real tragedy. And he's also divided the sheriff out here, too. Did you know that Gascon is not allowing any DAs to attend parole hearings?
I heard about that, Brian, as well. Yeah. That's another segment for another day, though. We're a little short on time. You know it's television. But Brian Claypool, I know your time is valuable. We appreciate tonight. And again, we reached out to the DA's office, and they declined comment because it's a personnel matter. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Vinny. Bye.
All right, folks.